Now I know what you're thinking. Ash, did you buy 39 plush pumpkins from Hobbycraft? No, I bought 40 plush pumpkins from Hobbycraft and they were out of stock of one, so I have 39. Now you may ask, why would you buy 39 plush pumpkins from Hobbycraft? And who's asking these questions? I'm not sure I like how this is going. We're not here to talk about the whys or what I was thinking. We're here to talk about what we're going to do now, because these are lovely and aesthetic and like they're great, they're fine, they're okay as is. I just think we can do better. So in this video, I'm going to be decorating some pumpkins that are made out of plush fabric, not real pumpkins. But you could use probably some of these ideas on real pumpkins. I think I'm over-explaining it. I think I should just get to the crafts. My first pumpkin, I decided to keep it very simple with a stylized night sky design. I'm just using 2 strands of DMC embroidery floss, burying the ends inside the pumpkin, and then embroidering simple star designs in a scatter pattern across the middle of the pumpkin. I'm doing different sizes and the occasional different style of star pattern to keep it interesting, and even accenting a few spots with some clear seed and bugle beads. This pumpkin was a fun evening on the sofa and pretty easy for anyone who's done embroidery before, so I give it a 4 out of 10 for difficulty, a 5 out of 10 for the time it took, but 10 out of 10 for the final result. So I don't know who originally came up with this idea, but I saw one person do it and now it seems like everyone's doing it, but you can put hot glue in silicone molds. Wish I'd known about that when I was getting into resin craft. Right, let's consider. So what do I want? I think I do want verticals. So I'm gonna want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can I just say that I do not recommend using coloured hot glue to do this craft unless you have a lot of coloured hot glue. I probably went through 20 sticks for this whole project and I only had 5 in each colour. Speaking as someone who's coming to this from resin crafting, I'm unconvinced. All the videos made this look way more like easy than it actually was. It has occurred to me that before spending however long I spent doing all of these, I probably should have done one to test. That's actually pretty good. Okay, I take it back. This is fine. They are good. The detail is maybe not where I would like it to be. They're kind of messy. Yeah, I'm not sure the little ones are really worth it. Okay, I get it. I'm on board. This is way quicker than doing it in resin. And yeah, the results are not breathtaking, but they're good enough. So I guess I just need to do this 7 more times? 3 more times. Maybe once more. Let's see if I start running out of hot glue. Because all my mouldings were different colours, I probably should have just painted them, but I didn't. Instead, I just gave them a coat of gold mica powder to make them more sparkly and try and make them more similar looking. It didn't work super well and was pretty messy. Make sure you wear a mask and protect your surfaces if you're doing this. Don't dump it all over your cutting table like I am. The real advantage of these hot glue shapes over resin, other than the speed and the cost, is that they're flexible. You can cut them up with normal scissors and getting them to bend around the curves of the pumpkin to hot glue them on is really easy. I eventually realised that gluing them on in stages made more sense than trying to get big sections to stick all at once, but layering and building up the design was really fun. I didn't plan anything out ahead of time, I just organically went with what I thought looked good. This also, unsurprisingly, used up a lot of hot glue. I think anyone could do this pumpkin with the right supplies, so I'll give it a 2 out of 10 for difficulty. It's a bit time consuming, so 8 out of 10, and the final result is a 7 out of 10. Wish I'd had all matching colours. Green felt like an appropriate colour for a Franken pumpkin. I want these to be big noticeable stitches, so I'm using yarn and a big needle. I may regret this. And if you go too far up into the gathering, then you can't see the stitches so well. So that's okay. We can concentrate on the middle, hiding the end inside the pumpkin, going to the other end of where I want my big stitch to go, and then zigzagging backwards and forwards. I say zigzagging. It's more of a, what's the top of castles called? Crenellations. That's the whole pumpkin done in under 15 minutes. Man, I love that. That's a good pumpkin. Frankenpumpkin is one of my favourites. 1 out of 10 for difficulty, 1 out of 10 for time, and a solid 8 out of 10 for the final result. I think it will surprise absolutely no one to know that when I thought cat pumpkin, we obviously have to do a black cat pumpkin. A lot of the time I'll find that people do the inside of cat ears on crafts as like a little pink triangle, but black cats don't have pink skin, they have grey skin, so I'm just going to use some white. Doing the little cat face and embroidery thread was easily the most difficult part of this pumpkin, and it wasn't even that hard. The curves are the tricky bits, and my main advice is to use the smallest stitches you can manage. The felt ears I doubled up so the back of the embroidery was covered, and then I just hot glued them on. This pumpkin is a 3 out of 10 for difficulty, a 3 out of 10 for time, and gets bonus points for being a cat, so the final result is a 9 out of 10. I came up with the idea of doing a woven pumpkin, and it took me a couple sections to test out the best way of doing it. I'm using a hand-dyed 4-ply wool I have some leftover bits of. As always, I'm burying the end of the yarn inside the pumpkin before anchoring it at the top. First we have to lay down the weft yarns. You want enough of these to cover the middle chunky section of the pumpkin, so in general, add more weft yarns than you think you need, and just accept that it'll be pretty chunky at the top and bottom. Then I'm just doing a simple weaving pattern back and forth, over one, under one, alternating on each row. I found that it really helps to catch the foundation threads that give the pumpkin its segments when you can. At the top and bottom they were too tight to get my darning needle under, but around the middle it was easier. This helps stop the weaving from shrinking and not taking up the whole of the pumpkin segment. You could definitely do a lot of different looks for a pumpkin using this basic idea, but I'm glad I decided to do it on a tiny pumpkin. Weaving is pretty easy if you know the basics, so I'll give it a 4 out of 10 for difficulty, but a 9 out of 10 for the time it took. The end results are a solid 7 out of 10. Halloween isn't Halloween without a little ghosty friend, and I really wanted to see if I could make a sheet ghost costume for a pumpkin. Measuring across the pumpkin got me the radius of the circle I would need to cut out from scrap fabric, just like I was making a tiny circle skirt. Instead of a waistband, I made a tiny hole for the stalk. Now, this ghost costume would probably have been fine, but I fancied something with a few more folds in it. Luckily, I am a sewist, so this is an easy fix. I cut another half circle the same size, cut a slit in the existing circle and sewed it into place so the ghost costume was now a 1.5 circle skirt. I was much happier with the fullness, but the fabric wasn't laying quite how I wanted, so there was only one option: iron the pumpkin. This was actually fine, as on a low temperature I could iron the ghost directly onto the pumpkin, which was pretty firmly stuffed, a little bit like using a tailor's ham. Then finally all I had to do was add the eye cutout. It's really easy to go overboard, so I started with very small eyes and progressively made them bigger. In the end, I decided the yellow pumpkin was just too light against the white and swapped out the pumpkin. I give this one a 3 out of 10 for difficulty, a 3 out of 10 for time, and a final 7 out of 10 for the results. I'd seen a couple of people make dresses with piped silicone bathroom sealant as a decoration, and I thought I could make a good spiderweb design out of this. I have to be honest, this didn't go so well. It didn't want to stick to the pumpkin. It was pretty difficult to work with, and I wasn't really happy with how it was coming out. It would have been better to pipe the spiderweb design onto something else than glue it onto the pumpkin. I give this pumpkin a 2 out of 10 for time since it's quick, it just needs to dry, but a 5 out of 10 for how difficult the silicone was to work with, and a 4 out of 10 for the overall results. I thought I could maybe rescue this by trying to do a gingerbread house pumpkin, and no, this one was worse. 3 out of 10. I really wanted a spiderweb pumpkin though, so I sat down with some yarn to try and figure out a different design. I had a few false starts with looping and trying to create a very loose and drapey shape over the top of the pumpkin, reinforcing it with blanket stitches, which did not work at all. The design that ultimately did work for me was to wrap the yarn around the pumpkin in a very angular and close-fitting way, anchored to the different foundation threads. I could have left it like that, but I decided to cover some of the sections I had made with a really quick filler stitch. The result is this very abstract, cobwebby sort of design that is also giving lace a little bit. It feels very haunted house. This one is a 4 out of 10 for difficulty, but a 6 out of 10 for time, and I think an overall 6 out of 10 for how much I like it. I had a couple of really quick ideas I knocked out while waiting for other stuff to dry, so first up is this vampire bite pumpkin. You could use paint or food colouring for this. I decided to be extra and use fake blood since, well, it's the right colour. It's just 2 dots and a bit of a dribble. I added some black acrylic paint to the centre of each dot to make it look more like a puncture. 2 out of 10 for difficulty, 1 out of 10 for time taken. This one is a solid 5 out of 10 overall, and although it's subtle, it does make me smile. We also cannot forget that while goths love Halloween, we don't own it, so let's welcome everyone to the spooky season celebrations with a minimalist, pumpkin spice girly Pinterest pumpkin. I'm just using some pins to mark out where I want my letters, then I'm putting Gorilla Glue on the back of some very inexpensive rhinestones with a toothpick. Fun fact, I used to compulsively bite my nails, joys of being an undiagnosed neurodivergent with an anxiety disorder, so I literally never developed the habit of cutting my nails, and now I mostly forget about them until I'm like, why are crafts hard? And realise it's because I've got massive talons on my fingers. These aren't even that long by my standards, and this whole project would still have been a lot easier if I'd trimmed them. Anyway, if you're doing letters and diamantes like this, don't overthink it. Pixel art is a good reference if you're really stuck, but honestly, if it looks roughly right, people will get it based on context. 3 out of 10 for difficulty, 2 out of 10 for timing, and a 6 out of 10 overall result. Okay, so this is foam clay. I've never used this before, but it's what all the cool kids use, so I thought it would be a good idea to get my hand in on a craft where it doesn't matter very much. According to this, it sticks to quite a lot of things, so I wonder if it sticks to fabric. Can you tell yet that I'm not very good at this? I need a pumpkin for scale. Now, I'm a deeply crafty person, yet sculpting is basically completely new to me. This is very much not my skill set. I think I would have liked these teeth to be a little pointier, but I'm not even sure that's possible in foam clay and in this scale. But anyway, they turned out pretty good. I used some sculpting tools to flatten out around the base of the teeth so I could have a gummy kind of area and maybe anchor it a bit better to the fabric. They mostly stuck but were a bit loose and wobbly, so I actually ended up making it even more gummy by putting a layer of hot glue around each tooth, and then I painted the base red to blend it into the pink fabric. I think with a lot more time and effort and painting skill, you could make these look really detailed and realistic, but I was on a deadline, so... Then the mouth just gets cut out and I made an incision into the pumpkin to insert it. This cut a bunch of the foundational strings, so I made sure to secure those in place before slip stitching the mouth into the opening. This pumpkin really reminds me of, now this is a very niche fandom reference, that like Balkan vampire pumpkin myth? If you know, you know. Anyway, this was a pretty time-consuming project and kind of tricky, although that might just be because this is not my skill set. So I'd give it a 9 out of 10 on time and an 8 out of 10 on difficulty, but overall results, 10 out of 10. Look at my son, he's everything I ever wanted. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to keep the YouTube gods happy. Follow me on other platforms to see pictures of my cat, and down in the description box you'll find a link to my Ko-fi page where you can make a one-off or reoccurring donation to support this channel and my quest for the 40th missing pumpkin. Ko-fi supporters get early access to all of my videos, the occasional extra sneak peek, and I couldn't do what I do without their help. Dream big, and I'll see you next time.